Welcome back. And when we left, we were talking about unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and the application for ultra-high frequency devices in that. So let's do a little future casting with that, because I know is there something in the works with that, or is there a possibility of something that's going on with SAIT with that?
Yeah, we have a couple of projects that are kind of a sort of parallel at this point, I guess I would say, because we're working on the RFID tags, the UHF RFID tags, and now that we have the increased read range, someone doesn't have to be, right present near a tag to read a tag. So we came up with this idea about a year ago of actually looking at using either a remote control vehicle, probably for our early tests, and then actually putting this onto a UAV with a reader, with a camera, with some GPS information, and we're going to see if we can actually read some of these tags from a height above animals. We did some tests and determined that we could get down to about 15 feet above the animal's head before they actually noticed it was there. So we feel we can be very unobtrusive, and just creates another whole world of use cases for UHF RFID.
Now, you mentioned 15 feet above their head. What about 100? I mean, very unobtrusive.
Right, but at 100 right now we wouldn't read the tag.
Okay.
So we need to be, again, between 15 and 30. Certainly inside 15 we have no problem reading it, but we can read them quite successfully from 30 feet. So, and every sort of iteration of inlay, as I pointed to earlier, continues to get more sensitive, which allows greater read range. So, the technology is moving in a direction to allow that.
Okay, now we have there's a couple of case studies that you're involved in. One was CL ranches, and that's where this type of application probably would come into a great deal of use, especially with having animals in remote pastures in the foothills. So tell us a little bit about what's going on there.
Well, at this point, all we've done is tagged their replacement heifers. We have a variety of, again, tags. We've done some tagging in other applications where, the animals aren't around very long, but with the replacement heifer, crop, we're expecting some of those will be there for, maybe up to 10 years, right? So we can see what the retention of those tags are like.
Okay, so you're looking at in terms of tag reliability, durability over the long period, and then bringing in new iterations of the tag and testing on in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And what's unique about that environment?
Well, basically, I guess for us, we're not in agriculture, right? We're in a college and we're in a lab, right? So we needed to have at least one partner who would have some animals that are going to be there for a longer extended period of time, as opposed to the life in a feedlot.
And speaking about feedlots, your other case study was with Chinook Feedlots out of Nanton. So tell us about what's going on with that.
So so that's just kind of getting launched for kind of a winter trial. So we're putting in some basically reasonably fixed equipment that's going to be there from now until the end of March, and basically a variety of those pieces. So obviously at the squeeze chute where the animals are read, we have a reader. We have 2 wide alley reader setups out in the actual feedlot, so as animals are moved back and forth. One of the real neat use case examples that we're going to be doing is also a water bunk reader in one of the pens where our animals are located, and so we'll be able to actually provide a daily report on actual water use case from those animals that are in that pen. So are there any exceptions? Are any animals not going to water? I mean, some might be going there just to party, but for the most case, they'll be going there at some point in time to have a drink, right? So again, just some learning, some research to see what are those kind of behavioral activities.
So some offshoot data from that, obviously, but again, you're looking at tag reliability, durability, and how it fits in the animal handling world.
So that'll be ongoing throughout the winter, and sort of the final kind of 2 pieces of our activity, and the third one being obviously the transportation of the animals, right?
Absolutely, and you're dealing with Gateway Livestock Services out of High River as well. Tell us how that is coming together, and what the purpose of using a transport company?
So, well, two things. I mean, we have built an actual RFID reader to go onto a cattle liner. And so two things. One is we're installing our reader system on the cattle liner to see, how does it last? We're going into, obviously, winter. Animals are going to be moving in and out of there. We want to see whether or not the technology, the way we've designed it, is going to last. And then we're going to also use that as part of our discharge from the Chinook animals, so that we can actually then do an immediate GPS located load in and load out of that liner. So when those animals are loaded onto the liner as they depart, and when those animals are unloaded at the processing plant.
Now, this is research equipment, and you're putting boxes in the actual trailer. Will this type of reader, this handheld reader, not work in there? What's the limitations or constraints with that?
Well, certainly, you have a large surface area, a large square footage area in there with, again, relatively packed with beef. So at this point, the reading of them as they enter and exit, and the fact that we can actually track the direction, so we know whether or not an animal went in or went out as we read it. So that's going to be our, what I would call like an electronic proof of delivery, that we know exactly which animals, entered the liner, what was the timestamp on that, what was the GPS location of that. All of that information will be recorded.
And we certainly can see a lot more integration of that information. We talked briefly at the commercial break about manifests, livestock manifests, shipping bills of lading and that kind of thing. How do you see this integrating to that?
Well, the data will be ready. The data will be there, right? Again, a manifest typically would have some kind of a time or date stamp, as to when, say, a paper manifest may have been made. And with this technology, we'll be able to augment that or possibly replace it with the fact that electronically, at this date, this time, this happened. And the fact that it's immediately available.
Hey, now the parting shot before we go, and the big question is, two questions. Return on investment for people adopting this, and what's it going to take other than a positive return on investment for the industry to adopt this technology, in your mind, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it always comes back down to a return on investment. It doesn't matter what part of the supply chain someone is in, right? Whether they're at the producer level or anywhere up the chain. And so with each area of our project, those are the things that we have been looking at. Like, again, what are those use cases, right? What's the use case at a ranch? What's the use case for that producer? What are the use cases in the feedlot? So it is all about that.
Excellent. Well, Glen, thanks for your time today. Thanks for being on the show. And we certainly look forward to hearing more about what you're doing with ultra-high frequency RFID in the industry. So look forward to more in future segments.